Well now, it sure is a great day to drive to Dawson City from Whitehorse. It's 12 noon right now. We expect to be in Dawson City by 6:30 tonight. On the road, we stopped at the home of the 1,000-mile dog sled checkpoint at Braeburn. It's a very interesting place. There's the checkpoint, and we got a huge cinnamon bun there. It's $10, and it was worth it. It's pretty good. There's the general store. What a tight squeeze. Oh yeah. More construction. It never seems to end. This bridge is very scary. It's the wood on the right-hand side. I was afraid it was going to take us out. I really was. And there's people working right there. There's an outhouse for us there anyway. And we're headed on the road. What a beautiful river bend there. I'm so impressed. Beautiful river bend to look down. Look at the sky. Beautiful clouds in the background. The Yukon River is really something to look at. I just love it. More construction ahead of us here. Never-ending construction on the highways. Gotta be very careful. Huge machines, people everywhere, gravel and graders, moving us along slowly there, going around. Sometimes you have to stop maybe for 20 minutes, half an hour. We're at Stewart Crossing, and we're heading towards Dawson. We have to go left. The rocks and mountains here have been spoiled with graffiti. It's kind of sad. There's a beautiful mountain scene. Nice sky, trees in the foreground, and another bridge, an old wooden bridge. We just keep on going. Gravel road. There's no emergency services on the Dempster, so you got to be very careful. Got to be careful all the time anyway. Amazingly enough, once in a while you'll see people on bicycles here doing a bike tour. And when you think about the fact that there's grizzly bears in the area, there's a bicycle right now. These people are camping out. And I saw signs warning that if you're bicycle camping, make sure you have bear spray and never travel alone. This is one of the park-ups we stopped at where there was a river right beside us. Some people were coming there to get water. The moon over the mountains is just unbelievable. The sky is amazing. Beautiful, beautiful sunsets. I love watching the sunset and the moon rise, the moon set, driving along and looking at the mountains pointing up towards the moon. I just love to see the moon over top of the mountains. It's just amazing. Beautiful. Love the full moon. Round every turn, more beauty. As we approach Tombstone, the roads got even worse. I'm telling you, this road is horrific. Got to remember to keep the rubber side down when you're driving on roads like this. You're going left and right to avoid the potholes and gravel. If you get too far over to the right, you get the really sharp stones there. I think that's what was giving me the flat tires, because I always seem to get a flat on the right rear tire. You can see ahead towards Tombstone. In the mountains, they say this is where the trees meet the tundra. So we're headed towards the tree line. And the mountain up ahead is bare of trees, but you see we're driving through trees. So that's where we're headed, to the tree line. Studied about that in school, but seeing it is another thing entirely. There's the mountains off in the distance. and the trees in the foreground. Terrain is very unusual. And then we see 3 bears looking back at me. They were pretty interesting. Look at the little baby bear looking back. His mom's trying to keep him going forward. These are the guys, man. When these guys pass, you look at the dust. I thought I was getting really bad dust, but I didn't know what was ahead of me yet. As we went on further, wow, it got worse. I didn't know what I was in for. Watch these trucks coming towards us. Thousands of kilometers ahead of us. More bicycles. Wow, we're just blasting along here looking for wildlife, and once in a while we find a little bit of wildlife. At one point there's an emergency airstrip right on the highway. Actually 2 places the highway's marked off for an emergency airstrip, and it says no stopping. In those places the highway's a little bit smoother and flatter than what you're used to. I think it's ahead of us yet. There we found a little bit of wildlife, some of these wild birds, so I got out to take a few photographs, and I met a fella there from New Zealand. He said he saw me coming and figured I was going to chase the birds away, but we stopped. Got some pictures of these. I think they're ptarmigans, something like that. They're pretty interesting. They're like a grouse or something along that line. Another bridge. Oh my. We have to cross over this bridge, and on the other side of the bridge I believe we'll see the emergency airstrip. There it is just ahead of us, marked out on the highway, the emergency airstrip. It says no stopping for the airstrip. We're headed towards the Arctic Circle, so we've got to keep on going this way for quite some time. I don't expect we'll see any northern lights this trip because of the midnight sun and the time of year that it is. More in the winter time, you know, you'd see the northern lights. Now we're getting the midnight sun pretty much. The road just keeps on going forever with the sky in the background. Almost looks like the prairies, it's that flat here, but ahead of us we've got lots of mountains yet. We're getting closer to the Arctic Circle now, and we're going to pull up here and take a few photographs at the required spot. Everybody pretty much stops here and takes pictures. There's the Arctic Circle sign. You can see some of the Dempster mud on our van. It got a lot worse than that, I tell you. There's a mountain road and the mountains and the valley ahead of us. See a little bit, some idea of the dust that's going on there. So one of the signs here showing to watch out for the caribou. Northwest Territories, we just entered the Northwest Territories. Not in the Yukon anymore. And the road just keeps on going ahead of us. Seemingly endless. So there's campers here, there's people up here. You see them leaving. I figured we must be going the wrong way. You get some idea of the dust that's coming up just even from these little trucks. When a tandem gasoline truck passes, it's unbelievable. You have to stop. You can't see a thing when they're coming by. It's just ridiculous. This road is pretty smooth here. There's a few marks in it, but it's mostly smooth. Sometimes the road you get on is just ridiculous. More and more highway ahead of us. Just keeps going and going and going. Get pretty tired. Sometimes we'll stop and have a little snack or something. Some more construction here. A little more construction. Here we had to stop. We're getting ready for another ferry crossing. This is the Perry Crossing where we go across the Mackenzie River. It was a smooth, uneventful crossing. I'm looking around here at some churches and things in the vicinity. This is the ferry that we go across. You can see a transport truck on there. We're loading on right now. get on the ferry. I'm right up at the front here, so we'll be the first ones off. It's uneventful, smooth crossing, it's very efficient. They just load you on and load you off. Crow running around, a crow or a raven ahead of us. As soon as he drops the grate, off you go. And we keep on going, just blasting down the highway. There's not so much dust here. These fellas let us get off the ferry ahead of them, or they got off ahead of us, but then they told us to pass them so that we wouldn't be held up and breathe their dust all the way. That's what we see. Another great sky. What an evening drive. I mean, it's just amazing. Beautiful. And now we're in Inuvik, the end of the Dempster. We get there. Here's the igloo church. It's just beautiful. Some of the documentation and notes about it. Just a great place. Driving through Inuvik, the land of the midnight sun. We're touring the town. We find a visitor information center here too. Just driving through, there's the grocery store on the right, North Variety, North Grocery. Some trucks and cars. It's a small place. Gotta celebrate the Yukon parks, let me tell you. There's the sculpture in front of the visitor information center. Very interesting sculpture. And the center is right in behind, sort of traditional, the way it's done. There's a Inuvik right in the front of it. This sign is just peppered with bullet holes. It's amazing. I can't understand why they do that. And there's, remember these? Remember way back in the day when there were phone booths? Now this is a giant crankshaft out of an engine at the mechanic shop. I stood beside it there to show just how big it is. I don't have any idea what that must have come out of. Looking across the river here, it's just beautiful. This is the Mackenzie River we're looking across. Now we're blasting down the road again. Look at the dust, eh? That's just a car passing ahead of us, but it kicks up so much dust. We got another ferry crossing here. And then he says to me, wait a minute, we're going to put a little bit of air in your tire. And I'm like, what? Because I didn't expect to have a flat tire, that's for sure, especially here. Perfect.
Just put it over there.
Hey?
I'm gonna put some air in your tire.
What? Air in my tire. So it brings me up to this point here and has me stop. They've got an airline there, so I can pump up my tire, but it's leaking bad. There's a rock went through the tire, and we've got a bit of trouble with that, so I have to change the tire. So I get under the van, crank it up, and put the jack under there. I've got the spare tire down already from where it goes, and I'm jacking it up. Just have to get the wheel off the ground. You don't have to take it up a mile in the air, the higher it is. And before I lift the van totally, I release the wheel nuts. Now I've got the van jacked up and I'm spinning them right off. You want to loosen the nuts with the wheel still on the ground. You can see in front I've got a rock under the wheels. I put rocks under all three wheels just to be safe. Now I've got the bolts off and I can take the old tire off, the flat tire off. Look for the hole in it. We can see the hole. But what I'm going to do here is just put the spare on. I've got a good spare with us, so we put the spare tire on and we'll get back on the road. I've got my toque on to try and keep the dust out of my hair. I tell you, get that gravel and dust. You get it anyway. Driving on the Dempster, you just get so dirty from the dust is in the air. It's everywhere. You're eating dust all day long. And we wouldn't have had these flats except that the gravel is so sharp it just goes right through the tires. And I have like passenger tires on the van. I guess I should use light truck tires for this kind of driving. It's pretty much off-road. So there we go. I'm jacking the van back down again. I got the spare put away. Then we pull the rocks out from under the wheels and put the jack away, and we'll be ready to go again. This is where I have to put the wheel up under the van. And you just crank it up in place there, and that lifts the tire up off the road and puts it under the van. Now that the van's down on the road, I'm really tightening the wheel nuts to where they should be. You don't want to tighten things too much when it's in the air because it could just fall off the jack. And here we go. We've got another crossing. The ferries are free, but you just keep on going. Well, we're on the ferry. We get stopped here at this construction site. I'm a little bit upset because the guy stopped me just to let this truck make a U-turn in front of me, and I could have got to go first, and I thought it was a real big deal because I was going to have him ahead of me kicking up dust all the way. But as it turns out, it didn't matter a darn because this guy's ahead of me, but other trucks start coming the other way, so you know, we got just as much dust everywhere no matter what. Maybe I got a little more dust because of this, but not very much. Here they're rolling the road a little bit. You can see how much dust is kicking up at the right. Here comes somebody, an oncoming truck. Now this road's a little bit damp already, so you're not getting the full effect of the dust that came up. At some point I'd have to stop and wait a minute for the air to clear so you could see where you're going. You know, you could think, well, I could just keep driving straight, but well, maybe you're not driving straight, and maybe who knows what might happen in front of you. There's just a pickup truck, and he's kicking up a pretty fair dust. But when you have a big tandem dump truck with a load of gravel coming by, it's unbelievable how much dust comes up. And trucks are enormous, and when they pass you, I have to just stop because you cannot see. It's impossible to see anything. The dust. Like a transport. That's one of the big gravel haulers. Now for some reason the camera seems to be able to see better than I could see. Maybe the camera doesn't get scared like I do, but here's another one. Man, and they're huge trucks. Sometimes the gravel just bounces off the van. I got several big stone chips and need a new windshield after this drive. More and more dust. Times like this you wonder, why am I bothering to do this drive? Why am I even here? Sometimes there's smoke in the air from forest fires. There's dust seems to be there all the time. The smoke was actually burning my eyes at some points. There were 4 forest fires. Now look ahead of us there. You can see this guy. You can see him coming for miles because you see this dust ahead of you on the road, so you know that somebody's coming. Campers driving by, look at that. The dust in the air makes the light I think it's very interesting to see the smoke and the haze in the distance and the mountains, the sun streaming through. It's very pretty to see the mountains with the clouds, the sky, but you can see that there's aerial perspective. There's dust and smoke in the air. There's some haze probably, but it's mostly dust and smoke from the mountains. Another video clip here, just blasting down the road. As I said, the road just seems to go on absolutely forever. Just stretches out ahead of you, and sometimes it's like it's almost depressing. I just had to stop and chill out for a little while, walk the dog, but then you see mountains and things, and it makes it all better. Met this little guy at one of the stops. He was very inquisitive and friendly. He came out begging. Pretty interested. He's a very friendly guy. I think he's begging. Kept coming back. He'd run away and hide, and then he'd come back again. They're pretty quick. He'd be down under that hole under the center in no time at all, and then he'd come back up and look around some more, and then he'd be gone again. There's the fireweed and the trees and the road off in the distance just going on forever. Fireweed's just beautiful. There's a curve in the road. Gotta go around the road. Sometimes the road's straight, but a lot of times there's curves in it. And when there's curves, wow. Look at this. These guys seem pretty proud of the job they're doing servicing the road, and you can see the ruts and how bumpy that is and how dangerous it is. I'm telling you, just shakes your teeth loose. We're blasting down the road, and in the air ahead of us you can see the results of the fire. Look at that smoke. There were 4 fires burning in the area, and their smoke was acrid in the air, burning my eyes. You can see the fire, how it's progressing there. You'd almost wish there was something you could do about the fires, but there were signs that said that fire is a natural event in the life of the forest, and it clears the area and makes room for new growth and things like that. Still, you almost, when you see a fire, you just wish you could just put it out or something. But I guess lightning causes, I think lightning causes about half of the fires, and people cause the other half. It sure made for some beautiful photographs, though. It was really something to see. This is about midnight, you know, and there's still that much light out, you know. More shots of the fire, some HDR shots of the fire. It's made for beautiful photographs, I think, but like I say, it's sad. Look at the aerial perspective off in the distance. The smoke lit up by the midnight sun was really quite beautiful. Some trees in the foreground. The fire's far enough away. We weren't in any real danger at all of the fire coming up to us. Here's a few trees. I just love the sunlight on these trees. It sort of gave the effect that they were on fire. Now we're on the road. We're headed for Tombstone. We're looking for a place to park on the road to Tombstone. Blasting along. The day is really dragging on. I've had so much driving to do. I mean, I'm just tired of driving. Just no end to the road ahead of us. But we did it, so I guess I could have bought one of those shirts that said "We survived the Dempster," but I never buy anything like that. So we're just driving down the road again. Driving and driving and driving and driving and driving and driving. Wow. This is where we stopped to park up. We were lucky to find a little place here where we could park. In the morning we went to Tombstone, and there's the mountain. That's what it's all about, going to Tombstone Mountain. This is from the viewing point, not right from the visitor center. Then we went to the visitor center. Here's a 3D relief map of the park, and lots of items that you can look at. Pictures of things, pictures of the mountains, examples of the wildlife that's around there, some exhibits. It's very informative. There's some wildlife mounted on the wall. I kind of hate to see all these dead animals and skulls and everything, but these are things that they found in the park. Bighorn sheep skull, samples of fur. It's amazing things. Some of the skulls here. That's a beaver. It's just an enormous beaver, and you can get an idea of the teeth that the beaver has, how they're constantly growing all the time. It's amazing. I was really, really struck on it. Now we're driving down the road again. We're looking around Tombstone Park. We drove past Tombstone Park on the way to Inuvik because the weather was bad. It was raining, and there was no sense really hanging around Tombstone at that point. So we just headed down the road and found some places to hang out and pictures to take. We went to Inuvik and saw what we could see there. More construction on the road here even. Non-stop construction every day, all day. The gravel trucks are running like at 10 o'clock at night. They were still running on the road because there's, it stays light till that time of day every day. Well, here you go. It's time for breakfast. So Mary made an omelet on our cast iron frying pan, put some strips of bacon on that, and then we toasted a wrap on the grill beside that. So basically you make yourself a roll up with some fresh bacon and eggs, and you toast the wrap on the grill and put the omelet on top of it. And it's turned out amazingly well. You wouldn't believe it. You just fire that bacon and eggs on top of that. It's a little hard when you're working on the ground. Now, it'd be nice if you had a table, but we just don't have room to carry things like that. There it is, all rolled up and ready to eat, and it was just absolutely amazing. Just toasted to a turn. Now we're back out on the road again, had a bite to eat, we're feeling good, so we're blasting down the road to Moose Creek. Here's the viewing center where you can see the kind of birds that are there. I did see some ducks and a few things and a beaver, but I didn't see much else. A little video of the water and falls and so forth. Here's the mountains. Just love Tombstone Mountain. It's amazing. The clouds are just blasting by the mountain. This is a time lapse. It's about 10 minutes of video reduced to a minute or so, less than a minute. Shows you how the clouds are moving in the sky. I think it's an amazing place. To be honest, I prefer it when the sun is just splitting the rocks and we've got a beautiful sharp picture of the mountains, but you don't always get that, so you're going to have to make do with what you can. Sometimes you'll shoot an HDR with the fireweed in the foreground. Sometimes you do a time lapse, and here I go again. Another flat tire. This time I gotta patch it because we don't have the spares. So you remount the hole a little bit, then you get a patch and put some rubber on there, and you just push that right in. You push it in about 2/3 of the way. When it's in 2/3 of the way, you pull it straight out, being careful not to twist it, because if you twist it too much, you'll break the tool and then it's not going to work. So there's the patch. Just spread the rubber around there a little bit. Then I get a knife. Now the tire patching kit doesn't include a knife, so you better have a knife in your toolbox. Then I put the tire back here, put the compressor on there, turn the compressor on. It's a little 12-volt compressor. It takes now 20 minutes to pump up that tire, and I didn't know, but the compressor should be on for 5 minutes and off for 10, because I ran it straight 20 minutes and it started smoking. So from now on, here I am cutting off the leftover patch material. You don't want to leave it sticking out too long. It'll be noisy and it might weaken the patch too when you're driving along. So these patches held very well. This is the device that holds the spare tire up under the van. Unfortunately, it broke, and I had to put the tire in with Bella in the back of the van, which is kind of unfortunate, uncomfortable, and inconvenient. There's the Dempster mud. Look at that. The whole van is coated with Dempster mud. It took us the best part of a day to vacuum the van. First we removed everything from inside the van, vacuumed it out thoroughly, and then I washed the van, and it came up looking pretty good. There's some stone chips that are going to have to be fixed, but that's what the Dempster mud looks like. And there's the van parked up along the Dempster Highway sign after we did it. Here we are in Dawson City, Yukon. Bella and I are just checking out the scenery, having a great time driving around Dawson City. Back at Walmart. Look at this camper, man. This guy is set up for the road. Canadian Tire, they've got quite a little display here. This truck and lots of camping gear. Canada's 150th. Well, I tell you, Bella's Vistas has had quite a time for Canada's 150th. Thanks for visiting us. Please like and subscribe. Come on back soon.